Welcome to the Let's Talk Paralegal podcast, where the legal industry gets real. I'm your host, Etta Rosa, legal consultant, speaker, and founder of Etta Rosa LLC and the Limitless Paralegal Academy. This isn't your stuffy legal studies school lecture. We're talking mindset, money, modern workflows, and how to build a career and a life you don't need a vacation from. Let's cut the fluff, raise the bar, and change the game one conversation at a time. If you like what you hear, feel free to share and send us your feedback. Now let's talk paralegal. In this episode, I'm joined by Lance Kennedy, founding attorney and major in the U.S. Army Reserve JAG Corps. Lance brings a unique perspective, shaped by both military service and legal practice, blending discipline, integrity, and a deep commitment to justice in every case he takes on. Listen in for more. Hey guys, welcome to the Let's Talk Paralegal podcast. I'm here with Lance. He is a criminal attorney, but what I love about this, and I just found out literally 2 seconds ago, is that he has actually prosecuted, defend everything in the criminal side, which is something that we haven't had on the podcast, something different. So, we're all about different season 6, and we're all about bringing you new things and new perspectives. So here we are. But before we get into all the skills and the amazing things you have done, which sounds really, really interesting, let's talk about you, the person. What got you into criminal? What kind of guided you through this path? And what keeps you there? Because it's tough. It's not easy. So.
Well, first and foremost, thank you so much for having me on your podcast, and I'm looking forward to our conversation. As far as just to kind of cut to the chase about how I ended up in criminal law, it was actually kind of by happenstance. When I graduated law school, which was in 2013, it was still kind of on the tail end of the recovery from the big economic downturn 2007 and 8. Economy hadn't fully recovered. It was still lagging. A lot of legal positions weren't open, and firms and other offices were either cutting staff, or, for instance, in my case, I was trying to get into any of the branches of the military and their JAG Corps. That was my goal, and I was getting, hitting roadblock after roadblock because of force reduction or other issues that were coming up. So when I graduated law school, I didn't have a career really set up for me. I had put all my eggs in one basket, and it didn't work out. And so I had a friend who's a very successful attorney who does toxic tort litigation now, and his father was also a large toxic tort attorney in Houston, but he had opted to do some prosecution for a couple years and get some trial experience. And so I figured, if it was good enough for him, and I admired his, education and career trajectory, I thought maybe that's a good choice for me. And so really that's how I decided, hey, I'm going to go into prosecution. I also set a goal at that point to become a federal prosecutor eventually, as kind of the way I would navigate my career. And then, really starting in 2015, after doing some grad school and doing basic training in the Army, which I did eventually get into, I exited and then started my career journey towards federal prosecution. And then that's how we are here today.
Wow, that's amazing, actually. What keeps you there? Because this is, these are strong cases, very difficult, not easy to handle. You have to be, I've noticed from the handful of criminal attorneys that I know personally, it has to take a certain person, a certain mindset. I know that a lot of them go to therapy day in and day out just to stay sane because of these type of cases that they go through, especially if it hits home when there's a child involved and they're themselves are parents. So navigating through all that, it can be a very, I guess, confusing, stressful, anxious, but also rewarding, right? So it's all it's a roller coaster of emotions, maybe like anything else. But I feel like between criminal and immigration, those are two very distinct legal practices that I myself have never delved into because I've seen the I guess the very difficult situations that we see, right?
Totally. Yeah. So, I mean, to answer your question, you have to have I mean, and probably this goes for many types of law. Like I would never want to do family law and deal with people's emotional and relationship drama. Some people really thrive on it. Same thing with, other types of law. Like my wife is a transactional attorney. I could not do what she does. It would bore me to death. So I think you kind of gravitate towards things that maybe fit your personality. And, I have I think a dark sense of humor. I mean, my first day on the job as a prosecutor, as a state prosecutor, my boss, who actually now works for me, that's another story. He was doing a case. It was a attempted murder, and he showed me the picture of the victim, and he had and this is going to sound morbid to your audience, but we were like looking at it amazed because this dude had a gardening tool stuck in his forehead, and he didn't die, and he had no brain damage. But we were just kind of like, so I was just sitting there going like, okay, this is pretty edgy, hardcore stuff, and it's real gritty, and some people would think, that's real disturbing, but for me, it was very visceral, and it showed me, really what humans are kind of capable of doing, and it made me motivated to go get justice because I saw, this guy who was assaulted, and granted, we were kind of making light of the situation as you have to do because you're dealing with some heavy type topics, but it also kind of showed me again, why I was doing what I was doing, at least as a prosecutor. So yeah, I mean, how do I keep doing it? I think you have to have a high level of confront. You have to be able to just look at the situation and take it for what it is. There are types of cases though I don't do as a defense attorney. I don't do child porn and we don't do child molestation simply
Mm.
because I prosecuted those cases. And so to date we haven't taken any of those clients. They have they deserve a defense, of course, but other than that, really not much bothers me at this point. And on some level, I think it's made me. I don't want to say like I'm not jaded, but I'm not naive. That'd be probably the better way to put it. Because I realize, what really goes around us each and every day, and people are not even aware of. And so, I think that's empowering because knowledge is power. But I enjoy it. It's again just kind of the very human type of law, dealing with a lot of very big human emotions. You deal with a lot of mental health and drug abuse issues, substance
Mm.
abuse issues, alcoholism, and whatnot. And also you can put your finger on the scale of justice and really, balance, at least for my clients now, the immense resources that the state or government can bring to bear against a defendant. So that's very rewarding for me.
I love that. And you mentioned that you used to prosecute and now you're obviously have a defense firm. So what made you transition to the other side, I guess?
Some of that is, I think, just personality. I mean, I enjoyed prosecution, I really did, but I didn't enjoy, I think, the level of conformity that they push on you. And I say that, what I mean by that is at least with like, the Department of Justice, there's kind of an aesthetic. They want you to look like a G-man, and you have to be real buttoned up all the time, and you're in your desk at 8 and you leave at 5, and there's not a lot of room for creativity or individual preferences as far as work habits and whatnot. Like I'm usually up by about 4 in the morning, and I get to work really early because I get most of my work done before 8 or 9 when everyone's starting to email me. Now that means generally by the mid to late afternoon, I'm done. So being in an office environment where I'm told you have to work in these hours, you have an hour, I just didn't like that level of stricture. And some people really, again, thrive on it. They love it. So while I enjoyed the work, I wanted more flexibility. I wanted to, be the master of my own destiny, and again, create the lifestyle that I really wanted to live.
I love that. And it sounds like it worked out great for you. So, hey, kudos to you for taking that, launch. Not a lot of us think about it all the time. And I don't include myself in that bucket no longer. As of 8 years ago, I took the same plunge for the same reasons, right? I became a parent and it's just different when you become a
Sure.
mom. It's just your whole life just changes and you want to transition and you want to be a better person all of a sudden for this little human that you don't even know. And so that's what kind of like inspired me to do what I do today. And I saw a lot of people, we talk a lot about it on the podcast, but I saw a lot of good legal professionals, lawyers and non-lawyers, leave the industry because, of bad environments or environments that were restrictive or just bad managers, really. At the end of the day, it was just really bad management or directives not really flourishing the environment, right? Or really reading the room sometimes. And so we talk a lot about that and we focus on that. But without further ado, let's talk about some resources or takeaways or something that maybe we can provide our audience to kind of let it live after this episode.
Yeah, totally. And could I just briefly though comment on what you said about environment? I want to say, and we will talk about resource, I promise. But in terms of that, that was a chief reason I decided to create my own firm because I wanted to create an environment where attorneys and my staff could thrive and have the freedom to really manage their caseload the way they want to manage it. I don't have any junior associates. I have very seasoned attorneys that work for me, and that's in part because I know that that's really the way you can get professionals to be professional and to do what they're supposed to do is give them the flexibility. I do think though that with both with COVID and then also some generational shifts, the legal industry is generally well behind the curve of understanding kind of developments in the market. And so you still have a lot of, frankly, baby boomer managing partners that really haven't learned that just because they did it a certain way or they did 2,500 billable hours a year and drank themselves to sleep every night doesn't mean everyone else wants to do that. And so part of the culture, I think, the legal industry, and look, I work as hard as anyone, but I also believe you can't burn yourself out. And so yeah, there'll be a reckoning, I think, at some point with legal culture. We provide a lot of resources for alcoholism and substance abuse, like with the State Bar of Texas. But it's like, well, are you really getting at the root cause of these issues, which is,
Right.
you know, soulless, soul sucking business models that grind people to a pulp and spit them out. And I think that, if they're being profitable and they're making money, I get why they want to continue doing it, but I don't know how they'll keep recruiting and keeping professionals unless they decide to change.
Especially with this new generation. I know as of 25 years ago, my 2000 nieces and nephews, they're a whole different mindset. Like I love it. It's very entrepreneurial. Like my one of my niece, she graduated, she did her bachelor's degree, like the bare minimum, and it's just to have something under her belt. But then she went into sales, and while she was transitioning, she got another job to see if she even liked it before she left the other job. Like it was like it's a whole different mindset now, And I'm like, I love that. I love that grit. I love that grind, and I love that non-conformity, right? I'm not conforming to what society tells me I need to do. Like she has no aspirations of getting married or having children anytime soon, right? She wants to create her career and do her thing and everything. And I remember it was the complete opposite for me when I was her age. Everything was like, you got to get married, you have to have kids, you got to be a lawyer, you got to do this. And I was like, no. And I was always the black sheep of the family because I never did any of that until it happens, right? Like I wasn't searching for it. It came to me, and that's different. But she's the same way, and I love that she's a little spicy little girl like I am. And I didn't even raise her. But my other niece, the same thing. They're very. I always love to have conversations with them because it's very refreshing to see that our future is going to be very bright and very different and very integral. And I always believe that it's going to be more contractual freelancing entrepreneurship that's really going to be created by the middle class because I've noticed that the middle class are the ones that are always holding the economic status between, the lower and the higher. And so I love that. But anyway, that's the economist in me.
Great.
So let's get back to the takeaways. Tell me what you got.
Well, I mean, I think I'll leave it to you. I mean, what would be beneficial? I mean, like, what do you think what would you like to learn from me? Because I'm happy to share any type of insights you have and just kind of guide me a
Yeah,
little
was
bit.
there any books or any maybe somebody or some company that you follow that really inspires you to create and cultivate and provide you with this mindset that you have? Because it's a very unique one. Obviously, we know this, right? Not every lawyer has that mindset or that perspective because you've kind of dove into every little aspect of what the, justice is, as far as in the criminal realm. So, what helped you or what inspired you to create this mindset that you have, because I believe that maybe it can inspire somebody else as well and
Sure.
empower them.
Yeah, no, that's incredible. Yeah, so mindset is key. That's really and changing mentality. And so, at the end of the day, if you're uncomfortable in a situation, that's something within you telling you that something isn't right. And you have to again have a high level of confront, and what I mean by that is really look it in the eye and be introspective enough to say, hey, I got to deal with this problem. The happy hour culture is really meant to numb you after work. Same thing with a lot of the distractions we have in life is really like, okay, it'll be okay. Now granted, sometimes you do have to pay dues. I paid dues and I lived in some pretty terrible spots, I promise, in Texas, because it's a big state, and so I had to do that to get to the position where I wanted to be. But my point is that if that's really your career in general, you need to look at that. So I would say, first and foremost, look at yourself in the mirror and be honest with yourself. The next thing is surround yourself with people that are building you up and are not bringing you down, and be extremely willing to cut people off. I'm a social guy. I like big events. You put me in a crowd, I'm gonna have fun. I'm gonna meet a ton of people. I don't mind that. I like meeting people. But the downside of that is sometimes I would let people into my circle or my environment that didn't really have the same energy or the same mentality. And I had to learn you have to cut people off, as hard as that may be. And they could be a close friend or a family member. So you need to also be very. My godfather is a restaurateur in Dallas, and he always would say you have to edit the crowd, is what he kind of said.
I love
Um,
that.
and he was talking about his restaurants, but it's kind of the truth is you got to edit the crowd with who you're around. Not only people you're with, like, because there's the adage, the five people you're with is, the average. I think Alex Hormozy said it though, and I believe it to be the case. It's really not the five people you spend the most time with as much as it's the five people you compare yourself to.
Ooh.
Part of that is really having people that you want to achieve what they've achieved, and give yourself the ability to see, that there is a differential, because if you're not again achieving the same level of happiness, it could be a relationship you want to model yourself after, or a business you want to again model, then there's a growth that you can kind of make up the difference. And then in terms of like books and things, I don't really read a ton of legal books, honestly. And I don't hang out
I
with a
don't
lot of
blame you.
yeah, and I don't hang out with a lot of lawyers. But I would say that one of the best books to kind of get yourself around a great mindset and way to think is Principles by Ray Dalio.
Oh, that's a good one.
Yeah, yeah, and so I don't know if your listeners are familiar. It seems like you are, but Ray Dalio founded Bridgewater, which was the largest private equity hedge fund um, company in the world at one point. And I forget if it was 100 billion or whatever his the assets they were managing was, but he developed a very interesting, somewhat I think aggressive would be a good way to put it, business culture. But he took all of those principles that he operated by, one of which is radical transparency, and kind of put it into an operating system. So the book Principles, you can get the app for free. There's actually Digital Ray, which is kind of its own AI. And it's a great framework to kind of look at yourself objectively, know your blind spots, reduce your ego barrier, and really, again, try to have a great mindset to grow from. So yeah, I think again, just being honest with yourself is the key, and setting some really big goals, and believing you can do them, and reaffirm, and don't let negativity creep into your mind, and then feed your mind with very positive materials. Like if I look at your algorithm and on like Instagram or TikTok or Facebook or YouTube or whatever it is, and you're watching a bunch of, negativity, gossip, BS, well, that's clearly the way your mind and what it's full of. But if I look at your account and it's uplifting, motivational stuff, business acumen, spiritual stuff, I mean, that's going to tell me a lot about how you are. You're focused on growth and positivity. So, yeah, I think we can learn a lot about ourselves, and then feed ourselves with some great material that's out there.
Yeah, I always tell this to my kids. They're only 9 and 7, but it's better to teach them young than to learn later. And I always tell them, you're only as good as your algorithm. And although they don't know what the hell that is because they don't own a phone or anything like that, and they only own Chromes, and we're very limited to their electronics and what they can
Mhm.
do, we still have power over, how much time it's allocated and where they allocate that time. I told them, they don't really see mommy scrolling through her phone. If I'm on my phone, I'm either working, responding to my assistant, like I'm doing something when it comes to work. And then when they do listen to a video, it's probably, I love Cody Sanchez. She's my girl. I love her. An Adam Grant, talk, which I love him, Brene Brown, and something very inspiring. So at first I was like, oh, maybe they're not really getting it. They're not understanding what mommy's talking about. And then one day I'm in the car and one of my friends sends me a video of Cody Sanchez because they know I love her. So anytime that she's around, they're like, you gotta go. Da-da. And then my daughter, which is again only 9, she goes, oh, that's Cody. I love her. She buys businesses and she's Main Street. And she's literally quoting everything that Cody Sanchez always says. And I'm just like, wow, okay, cool. Something's getting to them, but you're right. And I always tell them that you're only as good as your algorithm. And so you can clear it out too, guys. If you didn't know that, you can actually, there's a setting that can clear out your algorithm and you can redo your algorithm. So, anyways, thank you so much, Lance, for being on the show, taking time out of your busy schedule. I know how hard it is to run a business. I don't know how hard it is to run your business, but I get it. And so, thank you so much for just carving a little time for us legal professionals over here in
Sure.
Florida and out of Florida.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me on, and happy to help any way I can.
Of course. Until justice is served, until next time, bye. Hey, legal pros, are you ready to stop playing small? The Limitless Paralegal Academy is officially open, offering powerhouse courses, real world tools, and expert led training to help you build the career and life you actually want. We're not stopping there. The Limitless Paralegal Tour is hitting the road. We're bringing the mindset shifts, career strategies, and community straight to your city with epic speakers, actionable sessions, and zero boring PowerPoints. This isn't your average CLE. This is your legal career reimagined. Join the Academy, meet us on tour, become the legal pro everyone remembers. Visit limitlessparalegalacademy.com to enroll and grab your ticket now. Be bold, be brilliant, but most importantly, be limitless.